Welcome. If you're a woman who has a sense that there's more out there for you, you're in the right place. I'm Whitney Baker, host of the Electric Ideas podcast. Somewhere along the line of work and kids, life carried on, but I lost track of my truth. I'm on a reflective journey, and that's what this podcast is all about. Each week, I interview a woman who is lighting her own path and offering others hope. Before our conversation ends, we'll share a reflective question for you to explore. Sometimes all we need is a jolt, a fresh idea, an aha moment that connects us to a sense of possibility. This, my friends, is what I call an electric idea.
Welcome back to Electric Ideas. I'm your host, Whitney Baker, and this is a mini-jolt, a short episode where I share inspiration, tools, and reflections to spark self-connection and help you feel lit up from the inside out. Today, we are diving into some fun reflections and practices for connecting with your future self. And to be totally honest, I'm surprised I haven't done an episode on this before because my clients almost always have super great takeaways and interesting breakthroughs when I do future self work with them. I want to start by explaining what future work looks like in the Electric Ideas community. It's an opportunity to give yourself space. Some space to intentionally connect with yourself and visualize the person who you want to become in the future and the details and the circumstances of your life. What it's not, and I repeat, not about, is picking yourself apart or judging yourself for any places in your life where you feel stagnant or like you're falling short. As with all of the work I do with women, I encourage you to approach this work from a place of self-respect and self-compassion and more of an energy of curiosity and even playfulness, this kind of what's possible energy versus any harshness or self-criticism. And part of the reason I feel called to share what this work is not about for me is that we live in this constant bombardment of not enoughness soup. We live in a world where people are always trying to sell us the next face mask or supplement or gadget or whatever to be our best. And I just want to tell you that it's okay to marinate in a sense of enoughness and not always have to be in this big pursuit mode. That said, I think there is space for both practicing contentment and leveraging self-awareness tools to ensure you directionally tiptoe in the right direction and you have a chance to listen to the whispers of your desires and check in with yourself and make sure you're living a life that feels good for you, not one that is riddled with shoulds or unnecessary drains. As long as you are blessed enough to live another day, there will always be a future version of yourself. By the time you finish listening to this podcast, you won't be the same person, even biologically, that you were when you started it. So while this practice is not about feeling like we constantly have to be this maxed out level 10 version of ourselves, I know that change in our bodies and our life experiences are constant. And oftentimes many women get stuck and stagnant and they feel like they're living on autopilot. And future self-work can come in at the right time and invite you to just be a bit more intentional about your evolution. So I encourage you to step into this work from a sense of fun. How do I get to expand? How do I get to love my life and see the magical ways it begins to wink back at me? That is very different than lack, less than, not enough than, even self-loathing energy. And it makes a difference. From years of working exclusively with female clients, I believe most women have much more of an idea and clarity about their future self, their highest expression, than they give themselves space to dream about or credit for. Unfortunately, we don't live in a society that values reflection. Everybody wants it done yesterday. We literally describe our hectic days at work or chasing kids as crazy. What's actually crazy to me is living your life on autopilot and complaining about it when you're really the only one who has the power to shift things. So part of my mission is to help you get clear on that woman you're aching to become so that you can use this information to inform your days and your sacred yeses. So that through small, subtle shifts, it feels like an effortless merging with her. this future version of you that feels great. I'm also here to give you a big fat permission slip if you are one of those people who simply want more. If the desire is in you, it's probably for you, and it's likely to keep tapping at you until you give it breathing room. So whether you're moving through your days with so much to be grateful, so many bright, beautiful moments, and yet you also feel that quiet niggle, that quiet call for expansion, or you're in a phase of feeling stuck and stagnant, like this is not exactly the life I signed up for up in here, you can use the reflections and tools in this episode to get intentional and support your future self so that you slowly and lovingly can close the gap between where you are now and that future version of yourself who is in her excitement and fully expressed. It gets to be a soft invitation, almost like you get to melt like watercolor lines into becoming this version of yourself without it needing to be a dramatic production that you yell from the rooftops. Instead, you get to start making small, everyday shifts that honor your future self. You're going to have your days anyways. Why not let them be fun stepping stones versus subconscious regurgitation of same-o-lame-o? Something else that takes the pressure off is just deciding that this work gets to be the journey of a lifetime, and we're all human. We're going to have off days. We're going to have days where we just want to put our pillow over our head and forget about our future self and eat a burrito. So give yourself space and grace with this work. It's about long-term consistency, attention, and intention over time. It's a practice. And I'll tell you, on days when I'm feeling a bit disempowered by the demands of daily life, when shit hits the fan like it does for all of us sometimes, I like to remind myself about the concept around ships making a 1% shift in direction. If a ship shifts its course by just 1%, it won't feel like much in the moment. But over time, that tiny change can lead to an entirely different destination. In my practice and work with women, it's not about trying to overhaul your life overnight. It's about honoring and working within whatever your existing circumstances are, but not making excuses. And by deciding that you're going to look for possibility and magic in the day to day and consistently and intentionally step in the direction of a life that feels wildly yours. Many of my busy clients, especially moms, get into this pattern of, oh, I'll start that project when things settle down, or I'll start moving the way I want to, or actually meeting that friend for coffee when there's more time. This is my gentle reminder to just begin. Small changes in your thoughts, habits, and actions when you're consistent can change where you end up. Just like that ship that changed 1% directionally can change where you end up in a year. So future self-work is a great tool to help you get clear with how you want to experience life in 1 or 5 years. And it kind of depends on what feels good for you. But for today's purposes, let's just think about the future version of you in spring 2026, about a year from now. I typically end my podcast episodes with a chance for reflection, but I'm going rogue on you today. I feel pulled to put this important reflection in earlier today because it feels like a good way in. So I invite you to pause, take a breath if you can, and ask yourself this. If life was exactly the same 1 year from now in spring 2026, what would I feel disappointed about? I'll give you a minute. Just ask yourself this question and listen in. If you're driving or walking or folding laundry, it's all good. It's fine to just noodle for a second. But if you want to get really into this, you could grab a journal, pause this episode, and write down what bubbles up when you ask yourself this question. I'll give it to you again. If life was exactly the same 1 year from now, what would I feel disappointed about? Just listen to what bubbles up first. No need to self-edit or question. You know best if there's an area in your life where you're feeling off, disconnected, or dissatisfied. And your only job here is to be honest with yourself. And just to pepper in here, if something came up for you that involved someone else and it felt totally out of your hands, that's okay. We all know we can't change other people, but we can change our perception of a situation. We can create space between us and people and situations in many cases. We can choose how to respond, how much energy we give it, and how much we care for our hearts. Also, just one quick shout out to the woman who's just in that state of exhaustion, who maybe is being a little bit of a hater of this work. I just want you to notice, not judge yourself. I could see you being someone that's like, honestly, my future self is just crashing on a beach. That sounds like the dream to me. Sure, maybe that is what you really want. But for most women, after about 2 days of sitting on the beach, you'd probably be bored. Your brain would stir up a problem to solve. You'd start itching to feel used and seen and like you're contributing and being recognized for your gifts. So if for some reason I'm catching you on one of those days, or you're coming at this work with this felt sense of skepticism, I just invite you to notice that within yourself. Okay, so let's get into these tools. The first tool is the future self visualization. So, some future self work invites you to really blow the top off on possibilities and dream huge. And I love a big vision, but there's also magic in subtle shifts. And I found that the many modern women in my Electric Ideas community who are juggling all the balls, have full lives, are often caregivers, really like this minor shift in approach that I often do with my clients. So, this future self visualization is about reconnecting with the version of you who knows what she wants. And it's an invitation to start living in alignment with her, even if it's in these tiny baby step ways. Some practitioners like to really encourage people to blow off the top and blast into every realm of possibility when they do future self work. And I'm all for a big dream. But one of my favorite processes in working with future self work is actually to do the opposite and look at your current life circumstances and think about a year from now. If you had a really great day in your current life, what might that look like? Because honestly, it's usually those small daily moments and habits, like making sure you give your kids or your partner a hug before they leave for the day, making it to that yoga class, calling a friend. It's these small, intentional day to day moments that usually make us feel really on purpose and good. And the good news is, a lot of them are super simple to implement. We just get so stuck on autopilot and bogged down with shoulds. It's nice to have these tools like future self visualization to help us reset. And these small, accessible shifts that we get to excavate and uncover is what we go deep on in my 6-week Season to Shift program, which will be back next September. So I like to use visualization because research actually shows that visualizing and emotionally connecting with a clear image of who we're becoming can help anchor it in our brains and our minds. Studies show that when we take time to clearly visualize, and bonus points for emotionally connecting with the version of ourselves we're becoming, our brains can actually begin to rewire and look for ways that we can kind of merge with this vision. So you can give yourself some time to do a deeper self-guided visualization on your future self using this language. Or if you're craving more depth and structure, you can hop on the Season to Shift waitlist and traverse this work with me at a deeper level. But I encourage you to just imagine it's spring 2026 or 1 year from now, whenever you happen to be tapping into this podcast, and things just feel good. Not because everything's easy, but because you've made conscious decisions and you've honored what matters. So go ahead and try this. Remember, it's always practice over perfect. We all know there's always going to be parts of our day that don't go as planned. But when we have an intention and we make plans to just integrate these little things that give us a joy boost or make us feel like we're living with more peace or freedom or ease or creativity or whatever we're craving in this season, it just feels super empowering. And if you're like, okay, kind of got a little bit of this vision, but I don't know if I'm actually going to do this on my own, I created a free cheat sheet with 10 journaling prompts that is going to help you call in your future self. It could not be simpler. It's a list of 10 simple yet powerful reflection questions designed to meet you right where you are. And you can find the link to this free resource in my show notes. Okay, so now you've had this opportunity to pause and visualize. And I know I mentioned that visualization is an evidence based tool, but beyond that, it's also a powerful opportunity to pause. Most of us are not taught how to pause and self reflect and take stock of what's going on in our life. And that's why, for many people, it can feel like Groundhog's Day, like nothing actually ever changes. And I know I'm in a phase of life where I want to live my life by design. I want to continue to try to be intentional about spending time in my highest excitement and sharing my gifts. But when we don't give ourselves this permission to pause and think about what we want to call in, then it's more likely that our lives are going to be in a little bit of autopilot mode. I don't particularly believe in coincidences. I feel like I have a lot of synchronicities that are coming up in my life right now. And I just happened to read this passage from Rebecca Campbell this morning, and it felt like something I'm being called to share as part of this reflection and episode. So I just want to take a quick moment to share it with you as you're thinking about this visualization of your future self. She says, sometimes we're driven by the need to keep up, be approved of, or fit in. Sometimes we do things just because we've always done them, and we can't even see out of the box that's containing us. Sometimes what we're chasing is really chasing us. What is it that you truly want? And why do you want what you truly want? Be honest about it. What are you chasing that's holding you captive? Are you being called to break free of the box that's containing you? I think if you're drawn to this episode today, there's a reason. It's an invitation to take a sacred pause and really look at your life and make sure that things, places, people, projects, goals that you're working on and spending a lot of time on a regular basis, are they really in service to your highest good and the better good of all? Even though I do my best to live in time abundance mode, I'll be honest, there's just so many hours in the day, and sometimes we have to go through messy breakup of commitments. I'm not talking about with people, but another way to explore this, if you really want to go deep on this on your own, is to play a little game where for a few weeks you literally pretend that you're taking everything off your calendar and look at all your commitments and actually sit and just think about how that future self in 2026 and how they feel. And just think about if you could wave a magic wand and you could just choose what you wanted to put back on your calendar, and think about what you would pick. And think about that beautiful, self-connected, self-loved, self-supported, fully actualized woman a year from now and what she would thank you for taking off of her calendar. So she could create space to let all the goodness that wants to flow through her come into fruition. Moving on, I want to share a practice that can help you filter your yeses through supporting your future self. So stick with me here, but I just want to re-anchor into this idea that big change is wonderful. You got a power move in you. If you're called, if you're ready, go for it. But for most of my clients, real transformation happens in these small, sustainable ways that we work on integrating into our everyday lives. So a nice little practice that I like to play around with sometimes is filtering my choices through what would honor my future self. So you guys just had this opportunity to picture yourself. And now, if you're kind of going about your day, you can filter some small daily choices through a couple filters, such as what would my future self thank me for? I gave a nod to this already, but sometimes when my hands are full and I don't really feel like, for example, bringing garbage in out of my car, I'll be like, oh, you know what? That would be a really nice little gift for my future self to not have wrappers from the kids in the car. So I'll take 2 seconds now and grab them. And if you're feeling a bit stuck, whether you should say yes or no to something, you can filter your answer over what would be of service to your future self that you just envisioned. Like, what yes today will help me melt into the right direction? It can also be motivational in a way. I always encourage people to listen to their bodies and love themselves into wellness and a good life, whatever that looks like for you. But sometimes the motivation just isn't there. And we all know consistency matters with most things. So it can be almost a sacred self honoring opportunity if you think about it that way. Would my future self make it to the gym class? Would she get some gorgeous bounty of beautiful fuel on her plate? Would she get off her phone at a reasonable hour and wind down in a self loving way before bed? Many women almost don't even want to look at their life because it can be overwhelming, or they feel so far off in different planes of life from where they want to be that they just shut down because it feels yucky. But I want to wrap up by reminding you that this is your invitation to let this work flow into your life, not come into your life as a force. If you're truly willing to be brave enough to do this visualization, to be brutally honest and open to listening to yourself, then you'll know exactly where you can start taking these small, daily, aligned actions. And you don't have to feel overwhelmed because it's not supposed to happen overnight. But you can also start getting quiet momentum by making these daily, self-honoring choices that will help actualize the vision you have in your heart of your own highest good. So that is where we will wrap today. I want to share with you that journaling can be such a powerful way to connect with your future self, especially when the noise of everyday life makes it hard for many of us to hear our own voice and to connect with our inner knowing. And that's why I decided to create this super simple tool. It's called Call Her In. And if you want to snag this to support your practice, you can find the link in the show notes. You'll get a set of 10 simple but powerful prompts designed to help you reconnect with what matters and give yourself a chance to play with a little bit more clarity on who your future self could be and what your future life could feel like. I hope this episode gave you an opportunity to meet up with your future self a little bit, to dream about her, to call her in and get clear on who she is. Remember, this isn't about perfection. It's about showing up again and again with intention and knowing life is going to life you because it always does, but just coming back again and giving ourselves intention and grace, even when things get chaotic. If you're lucky enough to keep waking up every day, you're going to live through the future version of yourself. So don't wait. Do it for your future self. She is so worth it. All right, be well. Hope you have an inspired day.
I'm so glad you joined me today. If you're looking for more, feel free to connect with me on Instagram at @WhitneyWoman. And if you enjoyed the show, I invite you to support me by leaving a review or sharing it with a friend. Hope you have an inspired day.